Hello, this is Everett Pierce of Einstein 314. This is duly noted 23B. And we have 20 minutes to 11. Now this topic is about prison. Now, before you are quickly to say, oh, I want about prison and criminals and everything else, do know this. The tools and skill sets that I will explain in the series of this topic of evolution is energy puts me, if all the different tools, think of different tools. There are going to be tools in which you'll find in areas in which is easy to obtain, like in the area of, say, sex, which we'll have a series on that itself, where that's something we like, we enjoy doing. Certain concept, evolutionary concept, because that's what religion is. Religion is a belief system of how, code of conduct, utopia. And the bottom line, the end goal is that we become forever life. We evolve in a much level higher sophistication of intelligence, understanding, application. So my prison sentence was an easy task. So when it comes to certain things, you have to see before, during, and then after. And of course, what you're experiencing now is after. Okay, because I was released from prison in 2003. So it actually was June 13th, 2003. Okay, so that's my release date. So I was in there for damn near every day of 6 years and 6 months. For armed bank robbery. Now, I did not have a gun. I did not have any weapon of mass destruction. But as long as they interpret it you did, they can charge you under that. But the way my crime, the tone to it, I made it look like I was a really terrible criminal to kind of lessen the threat of them seeing me as a real threat. So, and, if you pull the tapes back, you'll say, man, he should be on that show, The Worst Criminals. But I did that intentionally. Because I wanted to accomplish my goal. At the same time, I didn't want that teller or other people to really feel the true essence that their life is in jeopardy. But on the same token, and I used a little girl's bicycle. I had a covering over my head that looked like I was retarded. But that was the diffusing part. So looking at it and say, well, damn, is that this guy's a retard. He should be on that show. Do know that that was deliberately done that way. And then the bank manager, wanted to be a hero, came out and ran me down using his car while I'm on this bicycle. So, then of course they apprehended me. So I did get out of the bank. I had money. I don't know how much money it was, but that was not part of the plan. My plan was to get into prison. Because I can't just knock on a prison door and say, I'm doing a research and study of human behavior. It's not the same. I need to go to prison. I need to experience what any other inmate. Now, this was federal, not state, but it was, of course, you're in jail. You go through the process of the legal system. And I'm not a scholar of our legal system. I am an author of our system. So I have to experience the very things that I create. So to see how it can be improved in that sense, bring about high functionality using collective knowledge. So yeah, it was, and for the fact that, I had to go from low, medium, and high. And the reason why they have different categories is according to your threat level or violence level. So if you're doing 3 life sentences, chances are, you'll be in a high. especially if you're hooked up with a gang and you just have that, the attitude. I mean, you look at him wrong or disrespect him, he'll kill you. And it's like he's already got 3 life sentences. What does he care? To him, it's like markings on his belt, like a warrior, in that sense. So this aspect of duly noted 23 to understand is, and even Ben Carson had made mention of it, and it was, and that's awesome. I mean, anyone in this presidential election, the way he had mentioned and talked on his town hall was spot on, double bullseye. He knows as a surgeon, so from what he was saying, he has expanded way beyond just being a surgeon. He's talented in many different areas. And for the fact that, he was making notion that we can't afford to just throw people away like trash. I mean, even though we don't like what they have done, and we like to use this term of, rehabilitating. But rehabilitating is not the right tone of energy. It's not the tone of action. Rehabilitating is, say, someone, a warrior, or a soldier who's blown up. He lost a limb, an arm. Is now we have to rehabilitate him so he can be as functional as possible. Like they have this foundation for warriors, wounded warriors. So if you feel the need, the giving need, and you want a charity, as far as I know, that the charity gives most of the money to the wounded warriors. That's some of the problems that we have seen with some of the charities. Is like the charities have turned into a business, and that's totally wrong. It's like 90% of the money is into the infrastructure, and 10% is actually given out for the cause. That's a business. It should be the reverse. 10% is to try to keep the momentum of your charity. So the Wounded Warrior Project, that is a form of rehabilitation because he's compromised. The inmates, they're in prison. They're not, they're compromised, but they're compromised on a different level. Okay, but they're not like a wounded warrior where he doesn't have a leg, he doesn't have an arm. Now he has to function in society. There's a difference of the two. Repurposing. Now, if a soldier comes back, okay, and he has his limbs, he has his thoughts, he's able to think, okay, but he has post-traumatic stress, okay. Now, that you have to get into repurposing, because obviously if he's experiencing that, now you have to repurpose him in his thoughts, because actually he thought he was ready for the task of being in bloodshed and killing people. And when he come back, the byproduct is he wasn't as equipped as he thought he was. So now you have to repurpose his thinking. Okay? Not that you're changing him. You're repurposing him just like Tesla did with the light bulb. So that's why you have to do the distinction between the two, rehabilitating and repurposing. So now, okay, so we don't see our inmates as trash. And a lot of them, me being an inmate, that's the feeling I got. It was like I was just a used Bic lighter thrown in. No one cares about you anymore. And that just, all that does is manifest things even to a higher level, a worse level. And that's why, they make mention, they use terms bullpen. And we see gang members in there. And depending on, no matter what their crime is, okay, there's a lot of things you don't like. Okay, now it doesn't mean you have to engage that into your, but like I had said in 23A, whether it be lying or deceit or murder, is like Charles Manson. Everyone want to know what was inside the mind of Charles Manson. It's for self-preservation, actually. We want to be able to identify quickly for our self-preservation that if there is a murderer amongst us, his is no hard feelings. He just likes killing people. Okay? it's for your self-preservation to identify that and keep you in safe distance, and then to avoid being a professional extinctionist. So that's why we talk, we have to talk about this. We have to talk about the things that are ugly, the good and bad and ugly. If I was only talking about the good and I'm your president and it's always these prim and proper words and everything's precise and it's like a lot of people would not relate with that. Only those who also behave that way. So if I'm up there and we're dealing with an issue and I'm a man of communications and I'm angry, I have to let you know I'm angry. I'm going to say, I'm not, like they make joke at Ben Carson. I'm angry. I'm going to tear you, and I'm sure Ben Carson's laughing too. Because Ben Carson knows that calm, cool collective. That's a very valuable skill set. But for example, if you bring an attack on Israel, which is technically the 51st state, in terms of our numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they are part, because the United States is Christianity. It is a form, any government, all nations have a government. That is a form of religion. Okay, who governs the governed? Who's the head leader of the head leaders? So that has to be a very special individual that understands the multiple levels of all walks of life and understands certain concepts of evolution for the self-preservation of us all. A leader of leaders. Okay, so we can learn a lot of things. Now, as we know, with we're being $20 trillion in debt. Now, in Unicor, I didn't actually work in Unicor, but I have cellies who did. And they would, the ones that owed a fine, they'd be automatically at the forefront of that list of Unicor. Because there'd be more inmates than job positions at Unicor. Now, do I have to tell you, there's a big problem right there? Expand that prison and put a bigger Unicor in there. Because if we are, I'm not saying we are, but if we are spending $10,000 for a hammer, then why don't we repurpose our individuals who are highly skilled, and we'll talk about that too, of inmates who are highly skilled in communications and functionality, means they have little to nothing, and yet they still be able to shank people. They'll still be able to communicate, even though they have bars and solid doors. Because they are forced to utilize what they do have, and what's been in the news, where these people had escaped out of prison. So we have to. So say Unicor, we expand Unicor. You say, well, that's a slave shop within the United States. No, it better not be. Okay, basically the purpose of Unicor, that serves many purposes, is one, when he gets out in society, of what we expect our citizens. You work, you be responsible. Okay, so he's working for Unicor and he's paying back his fine. Okay, now if we were, subcontracting our parts out, be made by other nations, and we got a poor trade like Donald Trump has mentioned, we can make the parts here by our own inmates. And they are very skilled individuals. Let me tell you, it was like, from communications to having nothing, like MacGyver, and then boom, they have something. I was like, how in the hell do you think? So I'm observing it from that, being able to identify skill sets from the structure of the prison itself to the inmates. So when you stop and think about it, which also supports, there's many ways I can support Second Amendment. Okay, pound for pound, inmate per inmate. No guns, nothing extraordinary. Pound for pound, man for man. The inmates would overpower the staff. Okay, and the institution understands this. That's why you have guys in guard towers, and they have the advantage. Okay, but are the guardmen there? Is he there for just the extinction of the inmate? No, because in terms of Christianity, we understand that nothing is trash. Nothing is shit. I mean, even shit is of value. You plant it, and then you can plant other things, okay? Now, it may not be something I put on my dinner plate, but it's definitely something I put in the ground to help grow some more food that ends up on my plate, okay? Functionality, okay? So, I would expand a unicore and say, okay, things that we're really paying the high price, and say, well, the reason why we're paying high price because we're shipping it from, say, just for a parable example, if China's making a certain part and we're paying 8,000% off of it because it has to go to Joe and it has to be transferred and then it has to go to here and then it costs the government buku bucks, when we could be making it here in Unicore using our inmates. And now they're inmates. Now he's having some money for his to purchase out a canteen, buy extra things, maybe a radio. He's sending money to his family because maybe you've stolen some money from a family. He's paying his fine, whatever fine that he's given. You know, as long as the fines don't get to the point, because I've also seen where they were just putting out fines so people would work it off at Unicore. That's like free labor, you know. So if you fine an inmate, it better be proportional to what he had done, okay? But the whole concept of Unicore, whether you owe $1 million fine, that you break it up and say he's making $3,000. He can only spend so much in canteen, okay? So, and say $300, okay? What's 3 times that? That's $900, okay? So he's able to have 300 and build up, they call a backup. Meaning, in event Unicore shut down for whatever reason, you know, maybe there's a threat on a compound, he can survive 3 months of having canteen. And you're basically showing the criminal or the inmate how to delegate his money, being responsible. Okay, this money for my family, this is towards my fines. Now, they can't have it where, okay, well, 80% of your money is towards fines. No, the purpose is to teach him what people in society being responsible. You pay your electric bill, your phone bill, this bill, you know, so you bring about important items, and he's contributing to that. You don't think that brings a sense of redemption to him? It's like, okay, yeah, I screwed up. Yeah, I may be never getting out of prison. But I know that my son that I have out there, or my daughter, I'm giving them some money, you know, or the victims. So everyone is part of that equation. And then you give him hope and faith that, yeah, I screwed up, but I'm also practicing what we would expect out in society. And if in the event he was pardoned or he is released at some point, is he's going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now, the thing is, it doesn't say he doesn't go out there and become a criminal again. But what you have done, you have greatly, instead of 80% of them returning back to prison and prison life and being institutionalized, then there's 80% of him wanting to be a good Samaritan citizen. And I believe in today's time and in all times, that's called being your ally. So what was your deficit is now your ally. And we understand that concept with other nations. Coming together in unity, United Nations. So there's going to be a lot of things that need to be revamped or redone and rethought. Because if not, it will be our extinction. And the snowball will go downhill and it'll get out of hand and we won't have enough power to stop it. And that's what we're experiencing. So we're at the best that we've ever been. So now is just to take a deep breath. Nothing is trash. Nothing is trash. And we have to repurpose things. Obviously, you know, and it's not rehabilitation. Because a lot of people think of rehabilitation is you are going to behave like this. And if we get that in the hands of Democrats, they'll say, you be a little good Democrat, and then when it comes voting time, then you vote Democrat. No, we have to let go of some of these old concept of things. Because it will be your undoing. You know, and I can sit here today until next Sunday. You know, lifetime after lifetime, a volume of books that would surpass encyclopedia and make it make it seem like a brochure on your doorstep. Because I've done extensive research. I have the understanding of this. I've seen simulations. That's what we have, computers that do this. Simulation. I do the simulation up here. And say, well, that's unheard of. That's unthinked of. Well, I'm on a higher level of understanding. I can teach you how to simulate up here using what you know, the same thing that you would teach a computer to simulate. To give you, and when you hit it from different simulations and you say, okay, I keep coming into extinction, extinction. That's why we have simulations, because if the outcome is terrible, you don't want it in reality. That's the concept of, say, Santa Claus. We simulate, we breathe life and hope as if Santa Claus is real, but technically it isn't. Simulation of what we want. Merry Christmas. Mary sounds like the name Mary. Christ is another name for Jesus. Merry Christmas is used together as symbolism, is that all walks of life. They come together in unity, spending time with their brother, their mother, their sister, and we appreciate that. I don't have to tell anyone the value of that type of unity. And in prison, they illustrate that same kind of unity, but just in a different way. So a lot of the things that we see in society, we also see in prison. I have seen in prison. So it's like they just have deviated. Like what I've also heard and say, well, the only reason why they're in prison, the difference between them and the people in society is some of the people in society just haven't been caught. Well, there's a lot of truth to that. Okay? Because you can't strip man of his skill sets of human behavior. So now it's called repurposing. So not rehabilitating. It's not, we understand, you have an arm, okay, rehabilitating. So if I need a prosthetic arm to get that functionality, then damn it, we need to have money and resources. Because if we remove hope and faith from our soldiers that put their lives, they practice the element of sacrifice, and they say, you push them over that edge, and they say, fuck you, Americans. We're going to come and we're going to destroy you. No, I'm not saying that's what our military would do. But in simulation, you don't want that. You want to show the greatest appreciation, because how many people out there, you walk down the street and say, I need someone to get their legs blown off. Could someone raise their arm? I need someone that needs to die. Could someone raise their hand? And someone be going, I hope he ain't talking to me. Sacrifice. That's why we're going to put value to it. A soldier comes walking down, he's a soldier. Yes, sir. Because I'm still alive because of you. Or you contributed, just like, Patton, who used to be in previous life, Donald Trump. Within 6 months of the death of him, he became Mr. Trump. Reincarnation. So we show that appreciation. It's not that we hold value to that. You're showing that appreciation from the perspective of, you're still alive. I can go out. I have liberties. I have freedoms. And when you compare, it don't take long to look at other nations and how they run things. That gives you a great appreciation for what you have. You say, well, all these bad things in America, And you got people in Kenya and other places. It's like, yeah, just trade places. And you stay here for a while, and you'll forget all about that complaint. So that's what I'm saying. People, they lose touch with themselves. They lose touch. It's like, so we got to bring back to the base, the foundation of energy and where we're at, and not fumble the ball. And let's get to the end zone. Let's be about forever life. And that means to bring about high functionality. There are going to be things you're not going to like. I don't like someone burning a flag in front of me. Okay? But if they're protesting, I have to give them that right. Tolerance, diversity. But if he's now going burning down these buildings and shooting and stabbing people, and he burns my flag, then he's a terrorist. he is illustrated, he is displayed overwhelmingly intent of his intent or her intent. And that falls in the category of being terroristic. And now it's terroristic. I also know that you are now a threat to me. That I am protected under self-defense. The right to bear arms. So like I was saying with the inmates and the staff members. That's why if you're going to bear arms with the right people. Okay, because they're not there to kill the inmates. They're there to keep, a functionality within the prison. Okay, so the right to bear arms, the gun itself is symbolism. Symbolism of extinction. If you're going to be forever life, then the reverse of that is forever death, and that's extinction. Okay, another word for that, as people have given it, is the devil. Not Lucifer, but the devil. And that's why the devil is always depicted as some horrible thing. But Lucifer, who's an alpha prime, a lower ranking alpha prime, but just as important, is like that defender at the basketball game. He's putting his arm out going, oh, you can't make this shot. That's okay. But his extinction is our true enemy. It wants you to think Lucifer is your enemy. It wants you to think that Jesus was your enemy. And that's why people wanted to kill him and torture him. That's why you have to be, if they're your true enemy, you have to know it inside and out. It's like you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. I mean, no extinction. And once you start getting into the depth of extinction, you'll say, wait a minute, wow, I was mad at you and I thought you were against me. Now I see where the malfunction is I just thought you were against me. Because extinction was working you. And it's back laughing at you and say, what a pathetic fool. So in terms of being forever life, I think that's pretty much self-explanatory. Like our Unicorn, expand it. You got 1,000 inmates there. You should be able to accommodate 1,000 positions in Unicorn. And there are many things that our government needs in terms of, say, fatigues or parts of the military or whatever. I guarantee you can go in there and you say, well, he's a stupid idiot. But even a stupid idiot has a purpose and he has a skill set. Okay, so that's what they should do, expand Unicorn. And so if we're farming out our parts and we want to, it's the worst feeling to know that you're in debt. And as like many people in the United States are experiencing from the credit cards and stuff, it feel like you can never get out of it, And so our inmate, our prisoner, who we despise as trash, can be our salvation. They can make things, they're helping themselves, they're practicing what we adopt in our society as a norm. At the same time, they can make us parts so we can keep the cost factor down, keep our nation strong, fatigues or whatever, because they have some skill sets in there. It'll just blow your mind. And they can take a battery, they take a battery and it's like, if you're out in the wilderness, okay, and you don't know how to make a fire, and they say, oh, I know how to make a fire. This is an inmate, and say, well, in prison, we used to take a couple batteries and we used to light our cigarettes. And next thing you've got a campfire. And you're going, oh, God, that feels so good. Ah! And you say, but you're a criminal. Well, fuck being a criminal. You're fucking warm, aren't you? Well, you better open up your mind here. I will survive. You will die. Okay, and that's what I need you to open up your mind. I'm not saying agree or like these inmates. But let's look at the skill sets. Everyone wants to be identified. They wear their clothes different because they want to be recognized. That seems to be a commonality amongst all nations and all people. Because you're here on a planet that's deemed the human race of being superior. So that is a characteristic of someone wanting to be in training or is in training to be a president of presidents. It's because you are superior, and you're superior because of your skill set. Because we want to bring hope and faith to the remaining people out there. Less than 1% of life. So if you think it's horrible to, your faith is gone, your hope is gone. You just feel like you're sunken in, that there's no choices and options. Your democracy is taken away. if you think that how you feel, can you imagine the masses of people out there? If you represent 7 billion, represents less than 1%, can you imagine how they're feeling? And they're putting their hope and faith in us to get it together, to work together like a functional, highly functional motor of leadership, being able to help them and teach them to get over certain plateaus, get over certain transitions. That's the reality. We can prove this all day long. You say, oh, that seems like Star Trek. Well, they were talking about Star Trek phone, and here we are with smartphone. So you're going to have to start revamping the way you think. All things are possible. They say in Christianity, all things are possible through God. Means just because you have not discovered it yet doesn't mean you can automatically take it off the table of possibilities. As far as Santa Claus, well, you're pretty much at the point of Santa Claus only exists in the minds of people, in the spirit of people, of wanting to, bring gifts. And gifts can come on, many different levels, from a smile to maybe a BB gun that this kid has always wanted, because you might find out that, 20 years later, he ends up being a sniper who saved, hundreds of soldiers from their undoing, their death. So that's why we have to open up, and we have to use everything, just like our fingers. When I use my hand, I'm using all my fingers and the strength of my fingers and my arms, my legs, my limbs. If I have to, if I don't have any arms, I'd headbutt you. I use whatever part of my body that would bring me a higher percentage of self-preservation. So that's why, it was difficult. It was one of the most difficult. But think of it in this way. If you're going to put all the, if you're an author, in which I am, I have to be able to see it and experience it on multiple levels. And as an author of it, I can revamp it. I can rethink that where the things that is wrong about it. Where are the things that are wrong about it that is because their implementation of it is incorrect. So I've covered many different areas of that. So just focusing on Unicore and, cutting down our deficit. China is nearly $30 trillion to the plus. And we're 20 trillion down to the negative. China could say, here's $5 trillion. It wouldn't hurt them a bit. And they're going to invest in the people and the infrastructure and the roads and the airports and stuff. Because it wouldn't make any sense as strategic wise that a nation would put it in your armed forces. Okay. Is you want to invest in the people. Because United States people coming here, the melting pot, as we know, is the third element, Trinity. Okay, the pyramid is the third element, means it is the best of both worlds. Okay, and they get the best of both worlds. And next show, that's evolution. Next show, you look back and you say, wow, you can see where we went from the stone wheel to the rubber tire. And it's like, now we go from the rubber tire to what? What would that be? There's no longer a rubber tire. Because the technology in which you have doesn't require it. You open up the subspace, and you walk from here to, say, California or New York City, like here from New York, which would be quite, 2,000 miles away. I can be there within a second. And I don't need tires. I'm using subspace of space. So not am I polluting the world. I don't have to make all these parts for the car. I mean, you would probably still want the car for local driving, but you will cut emissions down immensely. Airplanes, traveling, okay, but when you open up that technology, you say, well, criminals, okay, that's why you have United Nations we stand, because if you open it up, that means I can open up the subspace and I can literally put this missile with a warhead, a nuclear warhead, in the middle of your capital, and then be back before you even know it's there. And before you know it, whether it be China or Russia or whoever nation you are, and it's like your whole nation has just been obliterated within a second. So that's why when you open up certain technologies that all the nations on a goal or a plane of sort. Everyone's not out to kill everyone. Everyone appreciate the value in its placement of things, that it won't do shit like that. Because if you sink, I sink. And we have to be adamant about keeping us up. Okay? So when you open up that door, okay, as we personalize it, you open up that door, is anything passing through it of this nature, like nuclear, it will sense it automatically and that door will close. It'll bring it in and close it. And then your missile's forever gone. But it won't be to your destination. So there's different stages. You start opening up that where within seconds you can go from London to United States. You can spend the afternoon, have lunch, and then be back to London. That's freaking awesome. Is that a reality? It's more than plausible. It is a reality. But if you can't get to the level of United Nations we stand, and you understand the hierarchy of things and being able to work together, why would we bring the ability to open up subspace? You can go across the Milky Way. You say, that's 100,000 light years. Yeah. And you can do that within seconds. Across the Milky Way. So that makes that universe out there very small. And it's very small according to how fast you can travel to it. So when you're in prison, you learn a lot of tools. And these inmates, they start switching up, to what is being subjected to them. They got other gang members there, from the mafia to the Crips, the Bloods, the bikers, the Hells Angels. These are groups. So they're like symbolism of like nations. So when you start looking at that, of all the people, the inmates in there, there's still holdings to certain values of what's expected of a leader. Now, they may not be a function of what they're doing, be more is geared towards being extinction, bringing about dysfunction. Okay, but that's why you bring in the repurposing. You say, hey, Joe, I understand you think like this. But if you do try this, and he tries it and he says, wow, hey, I kind of like that. You say, that's what I'm talking about. I haven't changed you a bit. But I've changed the way, you were like this with horse with blinders. And now you're like this. Wow. You mean there's more to life than just to killing people? And say, yeah, there is. There's an element of creating life too, right? And I bet you have fun at that. But that's the thinking that we need. There's a lot of technology. Being stage 2 leadership opens up many doors and many opportunity in terms of cancer and health problems that we have. That'll all fizzle away. Because now you will be required to start thinking and resolving other issues as we know with our school system, from kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, 3rd and 4th, 5th. So each level is a challenge of learning and developing. So level 2 is quite awesome. I mean, we're talking like from cave, like this would be considered caveman, and level 2 is like, Star Trek. You're in and you're exploring where no other life form is gone. I mean, the dramatic from 1 to 2, and it's such a win-win situation. So when you're at this close in your evolution transition, it's like you have 2 choices. Actually, either you have to be doing something. All energy, all nations, I don't care, you're either going forward or backwards. Well, going back 4 billion years and start over again sucks. You figure the last 200-300 years, or say 500 years, you've accomplished what you have accomplished in a small amount of years compared to the totality of 4 billion. If that doesn't tell you of your freaking greatness and your awesomeness of just bam. Speaking of bam, or it's actually more a wham, we lost George Michael's. He has a song out. And it was one of my favorite songs, about Christmas. So it's unfortunate we lost a really good guy, a gay guy. But He's an inseparable element to our evolutionary ecosystem. So, I mean, just that, for example, he's a seventh heaven spirit. And his ability, despite his challenges, I mean, he smokes the dog piss out of a lot of singers out there. And that's him at his worst. Wait until you get to see George Michael at his best, and you'll be like, oh, like, wow. I mean, you'll feel that the Holy Spirit's in you and it doesn't want to leave. That kind of thing. So that's, hopefully I've, okay, about Unicore. Now you have, I mean, of course, on the compound, if you got a yard, you have the kitchen, the chow hall. I mean, those are also jobs and positions as well. Okay. So, because when the inmate's working for them, that means they're not hiring people to do the tasks of the prison system. So they understand that concept, hiring, inmates to work on a yard, clean up, people in the chow hall that serve food and everything and clean up. Unicore, they're not utilizing the potential of Unicore to save American people, taxpayers, money. So if you got an inmate in there and you're paying $40,000 for him to be in prison, and he wants that opportunity of redemption, expand Unicore. So everyone has a job. And when you get into Unicore, then you have the element of redemption. You have the element of not rehabilitating, is you're repurposing. Now he's learning to say, oh, okay, this is how society works. I kind of like this. So that's why we got to open up our mind. And we can't shut and take liberties in democracy, even from our inmates. Despite what the worst things they have done, we have to think higher than that. We are evolving to be adults in a level 2 of leadership. And that's how a leader thinks. Nothing is trash. Everything is a variable, is a tool to your disposal to use for the greater betterment of mankind, the human race. We are identified by our bones. So this will conclude duly noted 23B. This is Everett Pierce with Einstein 314. Now, if you want to give back your love gift or your appreciation for my videos, go to paypal.me/my name, Everett, EvereTT, Pierce, Pierce, and give back your token of your appreciation. With that, this will conclude Duly Noted 23B.